morning, and I thank you all for joining us. We are extremely lucky to have Kim Hatchuel presenting for AutoSA Career Hub this morning. Kim has become such an integral part of the AutoSA Career Hub program and facilitated three prior webinars on CV writing, which were absolutely outstanding. Today, we are here to hear about how to prepare ourselves for interviews so that we can land the dream job. And I think interviews in general are such a scary process where we often go in unprepared, anxious, nervous, and Kim is going to give us strategies to help us to perform better in any interview situation. So I know that Kim generally likes to give a little overview about herself when she starts the webinars, and we will be sending a recording of the webinar this morning to you together with the slides that Kim shares with us this morning. I thank you as always for your time. I know time is so valuable, and let us learn this morning so that we can ace those next interviews with confidence and preparation. So Kim, thank you so much. It's lovely to see you online again. Forever grateful for your time, and we look forward to the webinar this morning.
Thank you, Tracy. Let me share my screen. I'm hoping that everybody can see the first slide. So my name is Kim Hatchuel. I'm a proofreader by profession, a trained proofreader. But so I help people with that sort of stuff. But I also help people in terms of recruitment. So I have a small recruitment agency. There are two of us who manage the recruitment. We do recruitment for mostly education institutions, but we do have a few other clients. And my job is to get people, to get them into an interview, so to make their CV look professional and to show them off in the correct light, but also to help them prepare for an interview. Because as Tracy said, interviews are scary places. So, so what I'm going to share with you today is the skills that I give my candidates before they go for interviews. And it's quite, I found that it's been quite helpful. In fact, I chatted to a candidate on Monday, and she said it was the first time she had ever had such assistance. You know, she's had people just send them off phone interviews, and you sort of, you know, fend for yourself. So I'm going to share interview skills to land your dream job. And I'm going to give you some tips for this interview, or for once you are in the interview. Okay. And what I've done today is I focused on online interviews. And the reason I've done that is because at the moment, during COVID, most interviews are being done online. So these tips, while they are mostly for online interviews, you can use some of them as well for interviews if you actually have to go in person. So I know a lot of my clients are doing online interviews for first and sometimes second, and then obviously, you know, the third interview may be in person, obviously COVID and social distancing dependent. Okay, so where we start, and with any interview, whether you're going in person or not, you have to do some research. And when I say research, the first thing I always tell candidates is find a company website. Go and have a look and see as much information as you possibly can about the company. They generally have an about us. So go and have a look, see when they started, see who's in charge, go and look at their visions and values. And the reason I suggest this, without stalking them and without learning their business parrot fashion, you can use that information in an interview, and you can show them that you've been proactive and you've done some research. Okay, so when it comes to questions, you can use, well, I had a look at your website and this is what I saw. They will always love that. Okay, In terms of who's going to be interviewing you, there are a few things you can look into. You can see their names. You can perhaps find out how to pronounce them. You can see their history, maybe their education. LinkedIn is a good place to look to see who's going to be meeting with you. And obviously, if there's more than one, then do some research on them all. Okay. And the job spec, so important. If you've got a job spec or if you know what they're looking for, that is gold, because then what you can do is you can take the skills and experience that you have and match it to what they're looking for. And the more you can match, the better. Obviously, it might be a different industry, but there are things that you have done in your past careers that will match exactly that. And that, as I said before, is absolute gold. Okay, so research is exceptionally important. You can't just go into an interview blind. Okay, and then in terms of the actual interview, make sure that you have the application. So a lot of people are using Teams these days. Make sure that you've got Teams. Make sure that it works. Do a test run with somebody beforehand, okay? If it's Zoom, do the same sorts of things. And then joining the meeting at least 10 minutes before you start, the best thing ever. You want to be waiting for them. You do not want them to be waiting for you. It's the same thing as arriving at an appointment early. You know where to go. You've not got lost. You haven't got stuck in traffic. And you are relaxed when you get there, okay? And you've tested your camera and sound. So I often tell candidates to test it with me beforehand so that we could see that these sorts of things work, because there's nothing worse than having technology let you down at the last minute, because that's not professional. And I guess at the same time, it shows that you haven't been proactive. You haven't got yourself prepared. Okay. And make sure that you're in a quiet environment. So if you have to go to a coffee shop, not always the best idea. Make sure that it's quiet. You close the door. Make sure that your family know not to disturb you. And also, when it comes to that, make sure that if you have people that you live with, that they aren't on YouTube, or that they aren't watching a webinar or doing something, because whatever that is going to be taking away from the bandwidth that you need to run a video call. And then, very importantly, and you would do this if you went to a normal interview, you would turn your phone off. And for many reasons. If it rings, it's distracting. If it vibrates next to you and you move your eyes over to it, you will appear distracted. You might appear bored. And also, again, if you get a WhatsApp, or if you get a message on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever it is, your internet might, depending on your connection, slow down in that time, because it's using the bandwidth or whatever to bring in that WhatsApp message or whatever it is. So turn it off. If you're going to an actual interview, I often tell my candidates, leave your phone in the car. You don't know if you may not remember to turn it on to silent, and then it's distracting. Your attention has to be completely on the interview. And then if you are in an online interview, close everything else. Make sure that your emails are closed. Make sure that your web applications, internet is closed. Everything is closed. You don't want to be distracted. I know on my email, I get a little pop-up message which says, this is the email. My eyes automatically going to be drawn to that. So I'm not going to be focusing on the interview. So it's exceptionally important to close everything else down for that. Okay. And don't use a virtual background when you're going for an interview. Sometimes what happens, virtual backgrounds can look professional in that you might have put a bookcase behind you, or you might not be in the most professional setting, but it's not always perfect in that when you move your head, it can get a little bit fuzzy behind. So rather find somewhere to sit so that it appears professional, wherever that is. If you have to, I had a candidate once who reorganized her bedroom as that was the only place that she could do it where she wouldn't get disturbed. And and she appeared professional. They were very impressed with that. Focus only on the interview. Don't let anything else distract you. You're going to be looking at the screen. You're going to be talking to that person. So rather, don't think about, have I answered the doorbell, or have I left the stove on? None of that matters. For that half an hour or however long it is, the only thing that you're focusing on is that interview. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And then dress as if you were going to an in-person interview. Just because we're at home, most of us on Zoom, Teams, or whatever, it's still important to dress as if you were going to an in-person, because you want to impress whoever is interviewing you, especially if you're going for a corporate type position or a sales type position. They want to see that that person has made an effort to look as if they were going to an in-person interview. Okay. So let's go through some common interview questions. And now, please bear in mind that these are not always asked, but I'm going to give you some ideas of the questions that you could be asked and how to answer them based on experience. Okay, so the first question 99% of interviewers ask is, tell me about yourself. Now, obviously, it depends on the kind of position you're going to, but they don't want to know that you're married with 2 kids and a dog. They want to know about your education and your working experience. That's the most important thing, because they want to know that you have got what they need for that particular position. When it comes to personal stuff, you could perhaps tell them that in interview 2 or 3, if it's appropriate. Okay, keep that short and sweet, and don't brag when it comes to tell me about yourself. You kind of want to tell them that you're the best person for the job, but you don't want to tell them that they'd be silly if they didn't hire you, sort of thing. Okay, so there's a fine line between that. And why do you want to work for us? Now, this you could bring back to, you've looked at their websites and you like their visions and values, and you believe that, for example, if you were going for an interview at a university or a college, you can tell them you're passionate about education and you like the values that their company brings in. So that would be important. Okay, why are you interested in the position? Well, it's a lecturing position, and I've got 5 years lecturing experience. I absolutely love educating young minds, and I believe that education is really important. I also believe that I have the right qualifications. I've done a postgraduate certificate in education, those sorts of things, and I'm well equipped to take on this position. Okay. Why should we hire you? Again, there's a fine line between telling them that you're the best thing since sliced bread and telling them why you are perfect. Why should you hire me? Well, I've looked at the job spec, and my skills and experience match exactly what you're looking for. There we go. It's telling them exactly what it is. What is your greatest strength? And obviously I can't answer that for you, but what you can tell them is, I'm a brilliant educator. I was voted lecturer of the month for 3 months in a row. Students love me. My pass rate is exceptionally high, and before I joined the university, could only get 50% of their students in lectures, and now all of a sudden there's 70. That's a strength. I've had candidates who've been asked if they have any weaknesses. In fact, I had a candidate who was asked to present a SWOT analysis of herself, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities. And she coached it beforehand, and the weaknesses she said to them, I prefer to look at them as growth opportunities. So at the moment, I'm struggling a little bit with the amount of work I have. So because I take on too much, I'm learning to delegate. This is one of the I don't see it as a weakness. I see it as a way I can improve. So that for me, that's exceptionally important. Okay. Why do you want to leave your current company? Here it's important never, never, ever to badmouth your company, to badmouth your boss, because at that point, they're going to think, well, what happens when you leave them? Are you going to do the same sort of thing? So why do you want to leave your current company? Find a positive. I've been there for 3 years. I've sort of learned what I can. I'd like to learn some more from a new company. And I believe that I'm leaving on good terms. That's exceptionally important because they'll pick up if there's any unhappiness. Tell me about your current manager. I've had candidates ask this before, and they've sort of said, what do we say? Find something positive to say about this person. Find something that they have taught you, as opposed to, well, this person is a micromanager or those sorts of things. My previous boss taught me never to take a phone call 5 minutes before a meeting because it's going to make you late. I didn't like him as a person, and me personally left on without a good relationship. But I will never forget that John taught me never to take a phone call 5 minutes before a meeting. So I'm going to share that in an interview. Okay. At the end of every interview, an interviewer will always say, do you have any questions? And I often, every single time I prepare a candidate, I tell them, don't ask a question. And the reason I say that is because they will look at it and say, I'm sure she could have found that answer out. So you could have looked at their LinkedIn page. You could have looked at their website. If you find something about them that you'd like to ask a question, and I'm saying that in inverted commas, rather say to them, well, I had a look at your website and I noticed that your courses are up to honors level. I'd really love to get into lecturing masters. Is that something you've considered? Because then they'll see that you've made an effort, you've found out something, and you've made a suggestion. You haven't asked outright, do you offer master's qualifications? Because you can find out that they don't. They will then see that you've been proactive, and they will see that this person who they potentially might employ is going to find out things in the office before you automatically go to someone to ask. And in my mind, that shows you as a proactive person and somebody that I'd want to employ. Okay. And we spoke about this at the beginning. When you go for an online interview, please dress for success. This is a bit of a repeat, and you'll see this gentleman is wearing his pajamas and socks, but from the top up, he's wearing a suit. In an online interview, as long as you're presentable from what they can see, they're going to absolutely love it. Obviously, if you're going for an interview in person, I often say to my male candidates, please wear a suit. It might be 35 degrees outside, but if you're going for a corporate position, they want to see that you dress in a corporate way. Same for women. And I'll often ask my candidates to let me know what they're thinking of wearing. Make sure that they can walk in the shoes that they've put on. Make sure that their makeup isn't like too out there, that their hairstyle is presentable and corporate. And then again, that they haven't put on too much perfume, because if you're going for an in-person interview, that can be very distracting for the interviewer. Make sure that you've had enough sleep the night before, that you don't look exhausted. I often tell candidates, be mindful of all these sorts of things, because an interviewer is going to notice these things in the first 5 minutes, and it's going to make it difficult for them to interview you on that, those sort of circumstances. Again, if you are a smoker, make sure that you don't smoke a few hours before that in-person interview. Those sorts of things, be mindful of those sorts of things. And then when you act the actual interview, whether it's online or in person, you need to treat the interview as a sales call. So imagine you're the product. Imagine you were selling them a big pen. You need to explain to them why this is the perfect big pen to do this job. And it's the same about why you're the perfect person for that job. All these things that I've told you will help you make sure of those sorts of things. And very importantly, when it comes to interviews, please be honest. Please don't tell them things you think they want to hear, because if you do get the job and you've told them things that you can do which you actually can't, you're going to come short. So if there's something in the job spec which you've maybe done once or twice, or there's something that you've never done before, well, you know what? I'm a very quick learner, and I spend my evenings on YouTube and those sorts of things, learning these sorts of things. But instead of telling them you can do it, and then you get to the job and you actually can't. Okay, so let's go through some quick no-nos about what you mustn't do, whether in person or online. Don't answer questions with simple yes or no. That's going to show you're nervous. Share things about yourself relating to the position, or share things about yourself relating to your previous experience. Obviously, don't ramble and don't make it too long, but no short, sharp yes or no answers. Okay. And don't lie. I've said this already. Always answer questions truthfully, frankly, and as concisely as possible. So, and then we've mentioned this one before. Don't ever make derogatory remarks about your present or former employer, colleagues, or company. Again, they're going to wonder why and what will happen when you leave them. So find something positive to say. And then obviously don't discuss anything controversial like politics or those sorts of things. That's definitely not in an interview. It's not necessary, and it's you don't need to do it. Don't let your discouragement show. So if you get the impression that it isn't going well and you've already been rejected, don't show. Sometimes I've had candidates who've had interviews and they've let me know afterwards that they kind of see that it wasn't going so well. But sometimes interviewers do that to test you. So your job is to smile and answer correctly until the end of the interview. And when you switch your camera off or walk out the building, then then the smile can come off your face. But don't show them that you're discouraged. It could be a test. Don't ask about salaries, bonuses, holidays. Are you closed in December? What happens if I fall pregnant? None of that. If you've got any questions that could have that might get answered in the letter of appointment, or it might get answered in the third interview, or you can ask HR. The minute you ask them about those sorts of things, they're going to think that this is all you're interested in, not what you can add, just about what's in it for you. And you need to show them what's in it for them, as opposed to the other way around. Okay, this is for both interviews, for in-person and online. Sit up straight. Don't look distracted. Don't look off into the distance. Breathe, relax, be yourself, because those sorts of that gentleman is so nervous. I can almost hear him not breathing. And they don't want that. They want to see a relaxed individual. Okay. Have a positive attitude. So I'll tell you a story about a candidate who went for a position, and she was asked why at the age of 27 she didn't have a driver's license, because it was necessary for the job. And I had coached her on this before, and she said, "Oh, but I've booked my learner's license for next week." So it was a potential negative situation, and she turned it into a positive. So there's always a way to make something positive, so that they can see that you've been proactive, and that they can see that you're not a negative person, or that there's nothing negative standing in your way or their way of offering you the position. Okay. And ask insightful questions. So, as I mentioned before, when you look at their website, those are the sorts of questions you can ask. Ask them about their social responsibility. Ask them about their, like I said before, have they considered X, Y, and Z? These are the sorts of things that, and I always say ask in inverted commas, I much prefer suggest, which I believe is exceptionally important. Okay, and then when you're leaving, thank them for their time, because obviously they've taken time out of their busy day, and you're not the first person that they're interviewing. So obviously with Zoom and those sorts of things, they're probably interviewing 4 or 5 or 6 people for this position back to back online. So thank them for their time. Okay. And then when it comes to following up, and bearing in mind as a recruitment consultant, this is something I do. But if you're going for an interview and it's just you, direct, please don't follow up the next day, even the next 3 days. Wait a couple of days and then draft an email or phone them. Sometimes in interview or in job specs or interview adverts, it says, if you haven't heard from us within a couple of days or within a week, or whatever it is, please know that you've been unsuccessful. But if you've been for an actual physical interview, whether it's online or on Zoom, in person, you can follow up, but let's wait a week perhaps, so that you know exactly where you stand. I mean, as a recruitment consultant, I make sure that all my candidates know whether it's good or bad, if they've been successful or not. And I think it's exceptionally important for employers to do that, but don't act too keen or too eager. Okay, so that's the presentation. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and ask if anyone has any questions that we can chat about. And if you need me to unmute you, I will.
I think, Kim, you covered it so beautifully, I must say. You know, also thinking about further insight, but I think it was really covered. The yes, the no's, really come prepared. So I think, you know, guys, if you have any questions or personal ones, I think one of the questions that it's always good to be ready is that if you are familiar with the job spec, is to come ready with examples of how the skills that are needed, you know, the skills that you have, how or the experience that you have, how that will help from the job spec of the job, you know. So you cover that, you know, in the questions that you ask, but it's good to, you know, to be prepared with examples.
100%. So, I mean, yeah. I had a candidate who was going for a job at a college as a customer relations officer. And she obviously had never worked in education, but she had been a customer relations officer before at Mercedes-Benz, funnily enough. So she took the job spec and she matched what she had done at her current company with what the college was looking for, even though it was different industries. She was still able to say, well, I'm in customer relations and this is what I've done and this is what they're looking for. So I'm going to draw parallels. And it, I mean, she's still there. She got the job.
Nice.
Can I ask, please, sorry, is it a good idea to ask about any training that will be available while working, or are we supposed to do all our training on our own?
So I guess it depends on the company, Odette. And if there's a way of finding out if they offer it, that's great. I do think you can ask, but I don't think in the first interview.
Yes.
I think maybe second or third, or when you're getting to the negotiation stage about the salary or the position, I think then yes. But in the first interview, in my opinion, it's like asking how much are you going to pay me, and you don't want them to think that you're just in it for yourself, if that makes any sense.
Yes, no, I do understand.
Most companies will offer that you can study through them. But wait a little bit before you ask, or see if you can find out.
I don't mean really studying. I mean, you know, that there's somebody that can show me the work so that I'm not left to my own devices and thrown in the deep end.
Oh, I see. Okay, so yes, so what you can potentially ask in an interview as well, and thank you for suggesting this, is you can ask if it is a brand new position that is being advertised, or if it's a replacement. So, for example, if you're going for an office administrator position and you don't want to be thrown in on the deep end, is the person who's leaving going to be able to show you the ropes?
Yes.
Or is it a brand new position? Because then you can get an idea that it's that you might be a little bit on your own, or you, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
I think also another thing is, I'm just thinking, Kim, is that when you go to interview, is also bear in mind it's both ways as well. So, you also want to find, that's why I think that your emphasis about being honest is so important, is because you also want to see that work environment that you're going in fits into what you want to do, what you believe in, your value systems and all that. So it's like in both
Yes,
ways as well.
100%.
And I think the other thing that you mentioned, Kim, with regards to turning a negative into a positive, as opposed to completely falling apart and not being able to do that, it's one skill that is so important, because often you get asked questions that you're not the best equipped to answer, but the example that you gave us was prime to turning it around into a positive.
Yes, and I think as well, they're going to look at that and say, well, there's potentially something that's not ideal, but she's worked on it. And she's doing something about it. And also, when it comes to questions that, I mean, I've had employers asking a candidate once whether she'd prefer to manage one horse or like a whole stable of horses. And she phoned me afterwards and she said to me, I don't know how to answer that. And I said, I've never heard that before, but I think that they were asking whether you like one small project or lots of one big project or lots of little small projects. Can you multitask, or would you prefer to put all your energy? So questions that are asked are never the same. I wish there was a list of 10 questions that you're going to get asked. But I think also that a good thing to do is to role play it with someone, and without preparing your answers parrot fashion, make sure that you kind of get an idea of the way you would answer a certain question, so that you are relaxed when that question comes up, and then it's not like a please give us a SWOT analysis of yourself kind of question.
And I didn't mention at the beginning to all the participants that are online, and Hila, thank you for joining us from Israel. But Kim has very kindly offered to assist one lucky participant with a personal interview preparation session. So after the webinar, when we send out a feedback survey, please complete your details, and one lucky winner will be selected to spend time with Kim. Kim, thank you so much for that.
Pleasure.
So I don't see any other questions. And Kim, I'd like to thank you for, as always, being so concise in what you share with us. You really make daunting prospects like CV writing, skills, etc., so much more simple for the people that join your webinars. And I love the way that you present. So thank you for your time this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And we also have, Tracy, the previous webinars that Kim had run about CV writing can be found there as well.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you so much to everyone. I wish you a warm day. Terry, keep warm. I know your power is currently out, and we look forward to seeing you at the next AutoSay Career Hub, which is on the 23rd of August at 10 a.m. with Laurie Milner. And that Career Hub webinar will focus on personal branding and interpersonal skills. So we look forward to seeing you all then.
Thanks
Thank you
so
so
much,
much, Kim.
Thanks, Kim. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.